Signed up for a DNA test after giving blood just to learn more about my ancestry, but ended up finding out that the people who raised me were not even related to me and had hidden the truth for years. I don't really know why I decided to donate blood that day. Maybe it was guilt because I had gone past the mobile donation van outside the supermarket a dozen times and always made some excuse as to why I couldn't possibly do it. Busy. Tired. Hadn't eaten. But today, I had exhausted my excuses. I had eaten a full breakfast, I had my day free, and I guess I just did not want to be useless anymore. I'd been trapped in this weird funk, like I was drifting through life instead of living it, and giving blood, I don't know, it felt like something real. Something positive. So I went in, filled out the forms, sat beneath the blinding fluorescent light as a nurse wrapped the band around my arm and struggled to breathe through the needle stick. All good. Until it wasn't. A couple of days after, I got a voicemail from the Red Cross consisting, polite, but oddly formal, asking that I return their call about my blood screening. My first thought was, oh God, did they find something wrong? Like some kind of strange disease or infection. I phoned them immediately, thudding heart, hoping for bad news. But what I got wasn't quite that. The woman on the phone told me that all looked healthy enough. But there had been a discrepancy. Your blood type was AB negative, she explained to me, and I remember that because it sounded almost arrogant, like I had won some sort of genetic lottery. It's extremely uncommon, she explained. Only 1% of the population carry it. I laughed and said something like, oh great, I guess I'm special. But she didn't laugh. There was silence, and then she asked me very quietly, do you know what blood type your parents are? I said, yeah, sure. My mom's A positive, and my dad's O positive. That's what they always told us. Another silence. Longer this time. Then she said, I don't want to frighten you, but genetically that pairing can't produce AB negative blood. It's impossible. I sat there holding my phone like it was burning me. My first thought was that she was wrong. Or I was wrong. Maybe I had gotten it wrong. I texted my mom right away, just messing around, trying to play it like no big deal. Hey, what's your blood type again? She replied, still A positive? Why? And I stared at that emoji like it had just taken the wind out of me. I asked Dad too. Same answer. O positive, why? I didn't say anything. I didn't know how. Something was off. Like I had somehow stepped into some parallel universe copy of my life where nothing seemed different on the surface, but everything was different in the background. I spent the rest of the days researching every possible reason. Mutations. Lab mistakes. Vanishing twin situations. You name it, I read it. But it kept coming back and back to one impossible, hard truth: my blood type was not like my parents'. And it could only be one thing. I didn't want to think about it. I mean, who does think something like that about their own family? But once I thought it, I couldn't stop. It was like an under-the-skin splinter, small, invisible, yet hurting all the time. So I did something I never thought I would do. I bought a DNA test. Not for genealogy or fun, but the kind that verifies parental matches. I promised myself that I would not even open it if I did not have to. But I did. I spat into the tube with shaking hands, sealed it up, went to the post office, and spent the following 3 weeks living like a ghost. Still went to work. Still smiled at the others. But in my head, I was somewhere else. Somewhere dark, and silent, and waiting. And when the message did come, I hardly could bring myself to open it. I sat at my own kitchen table staring at the screen, thinking, if I don't click this, then nothing has to change. But I clicked. Of course I clicked. And everything changed. It simply told me what I already knew deep down. That the man I'd called my father for 26 years wasn't. No match. Not even close. My mother was verified. But my father, the man who showed me how to ride a bike, who drove me to school each morning, who yelled at me when I was out too late during high school, biologically, he was a stranger. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just sat. Stunned. Like my body had wrapped its arms around my heart so it would not shatter. And the worst part? My first instinct wasn't even about me. It was about him. My dad. Or the man I had always believed was my dad. What did he know? Had he known the entire time? Or was this going to ruin his world too? I didn't scream at them right away. I couldn't. For days I carried the truth like a grenade inside of me. Each phone call with my parents was as if I were lying, despite the fact that by definition, they were lying to me. I started to not take calls, to ignore texts. My mom finally left a voicemail, sounding concerned, and asked if I was alright. I wanted to yell, "Am I okay? You tell me!" But I didn't. I just sat in my car with the engine off, listening to her voice over and over again until the battery died. Eventually, I couldn't hold it anymore. I asked them to come on over. I didn't tell them why. Just said it was necessary. And when they walked into my apartment, smiling and carrying a pie like everything was fine, something snapped. I didn't even greet them. I just looked at them and told them I took a DNA test. My mom blinked. My dad scowled. "Why would you do that?" she asked. And I knew she already knew. The silence that followed was the longest minute of my life. My dad looked at her, confused. "What's he saying?" he asked. And she didn't even glance at him. She just stared at the floor, shoulders tensed, fists clenched. And I realized he didn't know. That he really didn't know. Something broke in both of us at that instant. My dad kept asking her, louder now, "What's he saying?" As if the words didn't make sense, like if he said them again and again, they'd reassemble into something less awful. And my mom just stood there, like her mouth had forgotten how to function. I recall feeling completely detached from my body, observing both of them, in a childlike state of bewilderment, fear, as if I had done something wrong for being there. At last, she sat down on the edge of my sofa and spoke, almost whispering. I was going to carry it to the grave. My dad stood there frozen. I felt like I was falling. "What is that?" I said to her, but she didn't meet my eyes. She looked at him. Just him. And it hit me, this wasn't a secret from me. It was a secret from him. "You're my mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But he's not my dad. Is he?" And she didn't answer. She didn't deny it. She just started crying. The sound of it I don't even know how to describe. It wasn't loud. It was this shattered, sort of broken sound that hurt my chest. My dad sat down slowly like someone had punched the air out of him. He stared at me, then at her, and I swear I saw years of his life get sucked out of his face in the course of seconds. "Is that a joke?" he insisted. "Tell me this is a joke." And when she didn't, he sprang up once more, knocking over the coffee table in his haste. It crashed onto the floor with a bang, but no one stirred. My dad stood there, shaking, and said, "Who is he?" Not to me, to her. "Tell me who he is. Who you slept with." The silence that came after that was unbelievable. You could hear the ticking of the wall clock. You could hear the cars going by. Everything sounded far away. She spoke finally. "It was before we were married," she told me, without looking up. "I didn't know I was pregnant when I got married. I thought it would not matter. That no one would ever know. And I don't know why, but that hurt more than anything. That she didn't think it would matter. That I was a secret she'd keep for the rest of her life." My dad scowled at me, and I knew he didn't even know how to handle me anymore. Like I was the stranger's kid in his living room. "I raised him," he said to her, voice cracking. "I changed his diapers. I worked overtime to buy his school supplies. I taught him how to drive. He is my son." And you reminded me. He couldn't even finish the sentence. He walked right out. The door slammed closed so hard the walls shook. I didn't follow him. I couldn't. My knees wouldn't hold me up. My mom just sat there, arms wrapped around her, still crying. I wanted to scream at her. Tell her why. How. Who. But couldn't find the words. I glared at her across the table in silence until she said, "It was a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake. I didn't love him. It was one night. And I never told you because I was scared. And ashamed. And I didn't want to lose the life I'd built." And for a second, I pitied her. That's the messed up part of it all. Although she had been lying to me, to him, to everyone, I could see the crack in her. Yet it wasn't okay. I stood up and informed her that I wanted space. And I left. I don't recall where I drove. Just away. I sat parked in some empty lot, staring at my own face in the black glass as if it might have something to say. And all I could think was, who am I? If the man that raised me isn't my biological dad, then what am I? What are we? I wanted to believe that it didn't matter. That DNA didn't define family. That love did. But when somebody lies to you about something this important, everything is different. It colors every memory. Every snapshot on the wall. Every "I'm proud of you and I love you, son." I lay awake that night. I just existed in bed looking at the ceiling, trying to figure out if there was any hint. If I might have known. I resemble my mother, everybody said so. No one ever questioned it. I would joke that I didn't take after Dad's nose or height. Now I'm not so sure if those were jokes that weren't lying. A few days passed. No one called. No one messaged. We were all trapped in our own little worlds, trying to figure out what came next. I thought about telling my friends, but how do you start that? Hey, guess what? I'm not the same person anymore. So I didn't. I just lugged it around. Quiet. Heavy. One night, about 11 p.m., someone had knocked on my door. I opened the door and there was my dad, standing like he'd lost a decade in 4 days. He wasn't talking at first. Just looked at me. I stepped aside and let him in. We sat on the couch, and the silence developed once more, but this time in a different way. As if something was shifting. He spoke at last. "You're still my son. I don't care what that test shows. I didn't adopt you due to a blood type. I adopted you because I loved you. Because I was yours from the moment that I first cradled you in my arms." My throat constricted. I had not realized how much I needed to hear those words until I heard them. I said, "I don't know what I believe anymore." And he nodded, as if he knew. "You don't have to figure it out right this moment," he said. "But I want to be in your life. If you'll still have me." And I lost it. Right there. Just let it all go. 26 years of love and confusion and pain and everything in between. He pulled me in like he used to when I was a kid, and for a second, nothing else existed. The next few days were strange. Like waking up in a house that looks exactly the same, but where every wall isn't where it's supposed to be. My dad and I started to communicate again, tentatively at first, like people on ice, never quite knowing how thin it is. But he showed up. He kept showing up. Answered the phone, asked how I was doing, recalled little stories about my history that I had never even remembered. He sent me a photo of us at a baseball game when I was 6 one afternoon. I was on his shoulders, covered in ketchup and mustard, grinning like an idiot. He penned, "You cheered for the wrong team the whole game, and I still treated you to ice cream." And I just sat there staring at the photo, trying to guess how much of my life was built on love that I never really questioned, and how much of it was built on a truth I never knew. My mom, but I didn't talk to her. I couldn't. Every time I tried to even text her, my fingers froze up. I knew that she was hurting as well. I wasn't blind to that. But the betrayal, how deep. It was a wound that I didn't know how to stop touching. There was a part of me that wanted to yell at her, and a part of me that wanted to hold on to her and beg her to tell me everything. And then there was the other half, the half that I wasn't ready to accept, that had to know who he was. The man she'd never spoken of to us. The man who was my biological father. I hated that I wanted to know. But I did. And it kept me lying awake most nights. What if he was dead? What if he was alive? Did he know I existed? Would he? Would I? Finally, after almost 2 weeks, I did call her. She picked up on the first ring. I didn't even utter hello, I simply said, "Who is he?" There was silence. I could hear her breathing. Then she said to me, "His name is Mark." I instinctively jotted it down, although I had no clue what to do with it. "We were friends at college," she explained. "One night, we went out drinking. I don't even know whether I was in love or just horny. But I didn't think that I would get pregnant. And then I met your father, and he was all that I never believed that I deserved. And after I heard about you, I convinced myself it didn't matter. That love, not biology, was greater. And it didn't last for long. I never looked back. I never ever talked to Mark again. It was too much to process. I asked her if she had an idea where he was now. She said no, but that she believed he still resided in the same town. I have no idea what came over me, but I told her I was going to go find him. She didn't attempt to discourage me. She just told me, quietly, "If you find him, be careful. He's not your dad." Not really. And that made something shift in me, because she was right and also incredibly wrong. I spent the next few days digging through old yearbooks and alumni websites, and eventually found a business directory with his name. A small insurance office in a suburban neighborhood an hour or so from where I lived. I went there on a Tuesday. I said nothing. I did nothing. I just left my car parked in front of the building and sat in it there, palms sweating, racing heart. What was I going to say? "Hi, I'm your child, surprise me?" I didn't leave. I actually turned over in the ignition. But then I saw him. I didn't need to inquire. He emerged from the building with a coffee in his hand, on his phone, and I was standing in front of a mirror that was a quarter-century older. My jaw. Same chin. Same peculiar tilt to the left eyebrow. I knew. I just knew. I didn't exit the car. I watched him pull up into his SUV and drive off, as if he were just another dude with another mundane day ahead of him. And I just sat there, knowing that this man was unaware of my existence. Not even a whisper. I was half of him, and he never looked my way, never wondered, never even imagined. And I didn't know what to say it was. Was it freedom, or was it loss? I didn't call him. Not that day. Not the next. I just sat on it for a little while. The reality. The choice. I could turn a door that would never close. Or I could leave it closed and never know what might have been. My therapist sure, I started going to therapy, because I needed to have something to say that stuck with me. She explained, you may love the man who raised you, grieve the man you never knew, and still blame your mother. Those are not mutually exclusive choices. And it suddenly made sense to me, because I'd been trying to select one emotion at a time. But real life doesn't function that way. You may be angry and grateful at the same time. You may need answers and also want to unask the question. At last, I sat down and wrote to him. I didn't send it. Simply wrote it. Told him who I was. That I wasn't looking for anything. For money. For a father-son reunion. Just the truth. Maybe a conversation. Maybe nothing. I don't even know if I will ever send it. But writing it did serve to remind me that I still get to decide how my story continues. And my dad, the man who raised me, were rebuilding. Slowly. Patiently. He told me he still has my kindergarten picture on his desk. The one in which I had drawn us with big heads and tiny legs, hands together. He said he glances at it daily now. And guess what? So do I. I copied it and put it above my bed. Because the thing is, biology may have written the prologue, but love wrote the chapters that made me. I once thought that if I knew the truth I'd be at peace. That if I knew where I came from, the whole picture, I'd be whole again. It's not like that though. It's like I have a puzzle and some of the pieces do technically fit in place, but they don't feel right. Off. And I just continue to flip them over, hoping there's an underside I've overlooked. After I wrote that letter to my biological father, Mark, I had it in a drawer by my bed. Weeks. I'd open the drawer, remove it, read it again, change a line sometimes, and return it to the drawer. I never mentioned it to my mom. I never even spoke of it to my therapist until the third session after I'd written it. Every time that I did consider sending it, I froze. Not an outright anxiety attack, but something more contained. A lump in my throat. A feeling that I was about to do something that could not be undone. Life went on meanwhile. My dad, and sure, I still call him that, because I have no idea what to say to the man who showed me how to tie my shoes and who was in tears at my high school graduation. He was trying. He'd message me every other day, something either harmless, like a meme he clearly didn't understand, or a photo of the dog I had as a kid who now has a single tooth. Other times he'd ask me to go out for lunch or a walk. And inch by excruciating inch, we started to stitch our bond back into place. It wasn't always easy. At times we'd both get our words wrong and sit in silence. At times the air between us was thick with what wasn't being said. But then he'd say something about some childhood memory, or joke at my expense about my awful handwriting, and for a brief time, everything would be fine again. We sat on a bench near the lake one Sunday afternoon, watching ducks fight over crumbs of bread, and he said, out of the blue, "You know, I always thought you had your mother's eyes." I looked at him, uncertain where he was going with it. He grinned slightly and went on, "Turns out I didn't know much. But what I do know is this: I loved you when I didn't even know what love is. And I'd do it all again. Even knowing everything I do now. And I swear, I almost fell apart there. Not because of what he said. But because I trusted him. I wish that were all. I wish it ended with a bow. But that's not how healing is. Not really." A month or so later from the lake, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. My heart leapt when I saw the handwriting. It was mine. My own letter. Returned. I'd not remembered sending it, but I suppose I'd finally gone and done it, one of those zone-out, stupid moments. There was a note that came with it. One sheet of paper. It said, "I don't know what to say. I didn't know about you. I'm sorry. I need time." No name. Just that. I stared at it for hours, reading the same sentence repeatedly like it would become something different. I didn't know if I should be upset or relieved. "I mean, well, at least," he replied. "That's more than I'm accustomed to." "But I need time?" Time for what? I'd already lived through 26 years without him. How much more time did he need? I folded the note, gently, as though it were something fragile. I tucked it in the same drawer the letter had been in, and left it there. I stopped trying to chase after something I couldn't define. Stopped going over my head, having talks that never did happen. If he wanted more of whatever this was, he knew where I was. My mom and I had our problems. Complicated. We started talking again. Again. Carefully. It was walking through a burned-down house, seeing what was there. She apologized more than once. Not just for the lie, but for its heaviness. She told me that she'd lived in fear every single day, hoping it would come true. DNA testing, ancestry sites, even a routine blood donation, she knew any of them could blow everything to hell. I asked her once, "Why did you never tell me? Even when I was older?" And she said, "Because I thought the truth would ruin what we had. I didn't know that keeping it a secret was ruining it. It'll take a while to trust her completely again. Maybe I never will, not completely. But she's still my mom. The woman who packed my lunch, went to every school play, cuddled me when I had nightmares. And that past doesn't just go away. It hurts. It doesn't disappear." So one day, I started telling some of my closest friends the story. Not the whole thing. Just enough to say, "Hey, something happened. And I'm working it out." They responded differently. Some of them were appalled, some nodded as if they'd witnessed it on a Netflix drama. But the ones who mattered, they listened. They didn't try to make it better. They just sat with me in it. And that's all I needed. One night, I was out at this little quiet bar with some friends. One of them asked me half seriously, "So, do you feel different now that you know the truth?" And I didn't say anything. I just sipped my drink and looked around at the faces that I'd had for so long. And then I said, "I don't know if I feel different. I just feel more now. Like there's more to carry, but also more to get. It's not about replacing one version of the truth with another. It's about learning to live with both. I'm the son of the man who raised me in all the ways that matter. And I'm also the biological child of a man who may never be ready to know me. And I am the product of a woman who made a choice I'll never fully understand, but who still shows up, still loves me, even in the midst of destruction. I don't know everything. But maybe that's okay. Maybe family isn't about biology or blood or who gave birth to whom. Maybe it's about who stays. Who shows up. Who keeps choosing you, even when everything that can go wrong does. It's over a year now since the blood donation. Odd how something so small, a needle and a couple of minutes of quiet in the back of a van outside a supermarket, unraveled entirely my entire life. I still think about it from time to time, the exact moment I was told my blood type wasn't compatible. That tiny sentence unraveled 26 years of certainty. And yet, after months, I came to understand that truth and certainty are different. And truth, well, it's a messy business. It doesn't always come with closure. It doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it just haunts you, awkward, unavoidable, but true. My relationship with my dad, the one who grew me up, is the only thing that's remained constant, even while everything else shifted. We've both changed, though. I think he has this stillness of sorrow now, this one he does not always show. I see it in his eyes when he looks at me while we talk, as if he is still memorizing my face, holding on to something that might slip away once more. Yet never has he ever drawn back. Not ever. He still delivers groceries over when I am sick. Still sends random thought of you photos. Still calls me kiddo, like I'm 7. And when he does, I'm grounded, like I'm still where I belong. That says more than any DNA test can ever prove. With my mom, it's better but different. There have been difficult talks. Long, raw, silent ones where tears streamed silently more than they did in words. She once told me, I thought if I could bury the truth deep enough, it would rot and die. But I didn't realize that it would keep growing inside me, corrupting everything. That hit cruelly. Because that is exactly what it did to me, it corrupted everything. I still love her, but I see her differently now. Less perfect. More human. And maybe that's not a terrible thing. Maybe becoming an adult is realizing the people who raised you were frightened children in grown-ups' clothing, muddling through the best they could with the decisions they believed they could live with. And mark my birth father, I have not heard from him either. No second letter. No email. No knock on the door. I'd be lying if I said I never think about it. I do. There are times I lie awake at night, trying to imagine what his laugh sounds like, whether or not he has the same crooked pinky finger as me, or if he's just watching the same baseball game I am, unaware of his son's presence as well. But the thing is, I'm not waiting anymore. I gave him the opportunity. I opened the door. If he ever chooses to walk through it, that'll be his decision. But I'm not just standing there holding it open 24 hours a day. I have a life to live. The ironic thing is, since all that's happened, I've gotten really good at asking difficult questions. Not only about my family, but about me. About what I want. What I'm afraid of. Who I am. Before, I think I was always kind of drifting through work, relationships, even friendships, trying to fit into some conception of who I was supposed to be. But this experience, painful as it was, awakened me. It made me realize that identity is not something you're born with. That it's something you choose. Day by day. I sat down and started writing again. Little things at first. Journals, voice memos, thoughts that I couldn't speak out loud in the still hours of dawn. But finally I jumped and joined a neighborhood storytelling group. We meet once a month in this small bookstore basement, where people share true stories, the hard kind. The kind that quiet the room. The kind that leave their mark. A couple of weeks ago, I shared mine. Not the whole thing, not all the names and details, but the general idea. A man who gave blood and found the life he had led was built on a lie. The room was completely quiet when I finished talking. Then someone in the back of the room got up and said, "Same thing happened to me." And another person nodded. And another person cried. That's when I knew I'm not alone. Secrets like that aren't property of a family. They speak. They travel across generations. And the only way to destroy their grip is to say them out loud. Not to shame a heart. Not to seek vengeance. But to heal. To place the pieces of the puzzle together, even though some of them don't fit perfectly. Sometimes I still find myself gazing in the mirror and wondering whose eyes I have. Whose smile. Whose hands. But more and more I see me. Not a silhouette of someone else. Just me. A bit beaten up. A bit wiser. A whole lot more open. I don't know it all. I never will. But I've lost the need for all the answers to believe that I belong in my own life. So yeah, I gave blood one morning. Thought I was doing something small. Something noble. Instead, I opened a door that I didn't even know was there. Stepped across it. And through the agony, through the bewilderment, through the silence, discovered something more on the other side. I found out the truth. And in doing so, I found myself.